What's up, guys? Yugi Bros here with another dark horse of the format. Now, this is a little bit more rogue than the GK build that we had on the channel earlier in the week. This one is definitely more kind of all out, you won't see it coming, but I especially love playing this. This has become my new favorite thing going forward. Um, Even beating out Relinquish, which I have a personal love for in this current format. But this deck is by far very intuitive, more so than I thought. I kind of just built this on a whim. But if there's anything I love about Speed Duels, it's that you can do so many more creative things. I understand Amazon and Blue Eyes currently run the gauntlet, with Gravekeepers maybe on the outside looking in, but I feel like a lot of people don't take the advantage of the creativity that we have currently. And while the card pool is very small, it's very easy to find a cool combo that you otherwise wouldn't have actually thought about had you not started to deck theory a little bit more. So, this one, I've been calling the deck Tribal Twister, and I'll explain why in a second, but our skill card is My Valentine, Tribal Strategy. Tribal Strategy has two effects, both can be used only once per duel. If you have an Amazon and a Harpy in your hand, you reveal them to your opponent to draw one card. And then if you control an Amazon and a Harpy at the same time, you can draw two cards. This is very powerful. You can draw, and you can use both effects in the same turn, which is crazy. So you could draw three in one turn if you really wanted to. If you had to, and then you had one on the field previous, and you summon the other one. It's very cool how it works. There was always this thought that I thought Harpies were better on its own and Amazons are better on its own, but I would want to make a deck around this because I think this card's really cool. And getting the draw power and advantage early can sometimes tip the game into your favor quite quickly. But I think this deck in general actually has a lot of cool tricks up its sleeve that people wouldn't see coming because no one's really playing a Harpy Amazon deck. We only played this with the starter deck first came out. Since then, no one's really played it since. So, without further ado, I will give you the Harpy engine first, then the Amazon engine, then the text of the deck. So, kicking it off, we play one Harpy Lady Sisters. I have a love-hate relationship with this card, but I think you need to play it. We don't have any other Harpies other than Harpy Lady 1, which we're obviously playing. But this can only be summoned off Egotist, which is a little obnoxious, but usually doesn't ever be a problem, and there are ways to discard this out of your hand if it ends up being dead. But it's just a 1950 beat stick that gets bigger and bigger depending on the Harpies or Spell and Traps that you have on the field pumping your monsters. So, we summon the Beat Stick, we have the Beat Stick. Then we play 3 Harpy Lady 1. This is the one that buffs all win monsters by 300, including yourself. So if you have just 1, she's 16. If you have 2, they are 19. If you have 3, they are all 2200. That's really good. What's really also good is if it's like 2 and you Egotist this out, this is at 2550. That's pretty awesome. It gets over most things. Damage is very easy to do in this deck. This is our Harpy package for monsters. We don't play anything else. As I said, this is just a one-of tech. You kind of have to play it. There's no other Harpies currently that Egotist is really good for. But summoning 2 turn 1 is very powerful. Having 2 19 beat sticks just right off the bat is very good in speed currently. So we play the 4 Harpies, the Amazon engine, and this is going to be a little unorthodox compared to what most people probably think. We play 3 Sage and 2 Swordswoman. I understand Swordswoman is insane, but the current format is pretty Amazon-based, so this doesn't do as much in the mirror as this. This is the better one by far, and this pops spells and traps. And this deck has a field spell that can pop spell and traps, but I'm not actually playing it in this deck because you're only playing the 4 Harpies. You kind of dump these real quick, and the odds of seeing the field spell with these are very minimal. It ends up being a brick more often than not, so we're not playing that, so we're backing up our spell and trap destruction with 3 Sage. You could, in theory, play 1 field or side 1 field. I just don't have the space. I feel like there's more generic options that are just better to play. But Sage is obviously Sage. Sage is ridiculous. Sage can just swing and then pop a spell or trap card after the fact. And there are a lot of battle tricks in this deck as well, so getting her to get higher attack is very easy. But we still play this package because we play one village, and we want to flow into these if we have to. Also, in the mirror, you need something that, at least on base level, has the same stats as both your opponent's swordswomen's and your opponent's chainmasters. But what's really cool is if in case you do run into like a Blue Eyes deck with this, we side the third one of these. It's a very weird side deck. I'll get to you guys in a second, but we side the third one so that we still have the combo if needed. So that's the 5 Amazons and the 4 Harpies. Now we get to my personal favorite card of the deck, and that is Desert Twister. This card, I'm telling you, this card, just as long as it finds its deck, it's really powerful. Late game, this is just a force to be reckoned with. If you're playing against Amazon, which you probably will be, this card does a number to the deck. To summon this, it cannot be normal summoner set. You must be special summoned by banishing 2 winds and 1 earth from your graveyard. And then once per turn, you can discard a card to destroy a spell or trap on the field. So like I said earlier, if you do end up with this being dead in your hand, or something else, or maybe one too many sages or whatever, and you just want to pop a back row, feel free with this. Where this card gets really powerful is with Harpy Lady. Harpy Lady 1 will pump this because it's a wind type monster, so this can become 26. What's crazy is you can get this thing up to 29 based off of just this field alone. But what a lot of people do not expect is you dropping this mid to late game and just popping through their back row. This allows you to change the tempo of the game against Amazons by getting rid of their back row before the battle phase. You can even, if you're worried about Windstorm or you think they definitely have it, special summon this in defense, use its effect to pop the Windstorm. Like, and depending on how your field is, they might have to chain the Windstorm so you would get it back into attack mode. There's a lot of ways that this just plays around Amazon. And then, like, also, if you're in top deck mode and this is what you have on the field, every time you draw, you get a free pop a spell or trap on the field. And if it's not Windstorm, if it's Kunai, or if it's, Village or Heirloom, that's just free. Like, this card allows you to get in on Amazon. It's pretty ridiculous. I also, just a little note, I had this featured in a Market Watch last week. This card is currently like 80 cents. Like, I would just pick this up just to have a playset for any potential reasons it would be good in the future. But this deck is definitely where I think it shines currently the most. So that's the monsters. Spells, we only play 3. We play 1 village. Only 1 because we don't want to brick with this. We also don't want to open this and Harpies and maybe then draw another one. Like, it just does not, it doesn't flow the deck. The only annoying part about this deck is you need all the pieces to flow pretty evenly, which means you have to cut and make sacrifices on some things. So we're only playing 1 village. We don't even play Heirloom. We could play Heirloom. We could side Heirloom if we think it's necessary. We do play the extra Swordswoman, so it's an option maybe for the future. I just want my opening hand to be as consistent as possible. So we are only playing the 1 village because this at least can be our consistency to blow through our Amazons. We play 1 Egotist for arguably the same reason. You only need 1. Every time I played 2 in here, I always would brick with the other one. It just ended up always being a pain. And you only have 4 targets for it, and most of the time you're summoning Sisters, and a lot of the time Sisters ends up dead in your hand until you draw this, and you're summoning Sisters from the hand because you can't do anything else with it after the fact. So you only really need 1. And then the last spell we play, and I'm sure no one saw this coming, was Sword of Deep-Seated. Alright guys, this card says it's an equipped spell. It gives a monster 500 attack. If it's sent from the field to the grave, it goes on the top of your deck. The downside is it goes on top of your deck when sometimes you don't want it to, so it'll be a dead draw. However, the way this deck can pace your opponent, usually it doesn't matter. I thought it would matter more often. I realized most of the time it doesn't, and the 500 boost is ridiculous on most things in this deck. Like, just Harpy Lady by herself becomes 21 with this. Desert Twister with this becomes 28 by himself. If you have Harpy Lady 1, now he's 31, gets over the Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes, by the way, in main deck, if it's standard Blue Eyes, they have no main deck out to anything that gets over 3,000. So if you drop anything on the field that is over 3,000, and they don't have the Stamping Destruction, you're usually just winning by getting over stuff. Yeah, but in addition, like putting it on Sage, giving Sage the 500 makes her a 19 base stick. Now she's popping everything at 1900. This card's really good. Obviously, you only need one because it stacks itself back. If for some reason you are worried that it's going to keep stacking itself and you don't want it, you just set it or discard it off Desert Twister, and then you don't have to worry about it ever. But it's a really cool recurring boost that I think this deck benefits from a lot. Traps, we play the standard triple Windstorm, triple Kunai. I feel like this is generally the trap lineup in most decks. Just currently, right now, this is the best trap in the game, and this is the alternative to Sphere Karibo. But I think Sphere Karibo, as I've said in previous videos, is only really good in non-back row decks. Because if you set this and you're only playing this as your, like, instead of your Sphere Karibo, they're just going to blast it with whatever. But Sphere Karibo doesn't target too. This does, but usually it doesn't end up being a huge deal, and that 500 boost is where it really shines in like an Amazon mirror match or an Amazon matchup or something like that. Moving on to the side deck. Alright, so this is a little bit more funky. We play, like I said, the extra swordswoman in case we go up against Blue Eyes and we need the beat stick. We play 2 Twister instead of 3. Only reason I feel like we don't need more than that is, aside from the triple Sage, you're playing Desert Twister. You're playing a different type of Twister that, instead of paying life points, discards a card to do the same thing. I think you have enough spell and trap destruction with just 2 of these. I think 3 actually gets you to a point where you're breaking too much, and obviously this is just mainly coming in against Amazons as it is. Amazon are relinquished. And then lastly, we play 2 Magic Jammer. I feel like this is just format related right now. Right now, if you're not maining this, you're siding this because Blue Eyes, it just shuts them down completely and you win usually from there. And in an Amazon matchup, having a little extra firepower to negate their spells going first is very good. Definitely don't play this card going second. This deck has enough spell and trap destruction as it is. But this has also come up against something like Relinquish. Relinquish literally revolves around Relinquished. So if you negate the Illusion Ritual, that's usually that. And there's been a rise in rogue decks at my locals, and Red Eyes, or I guess better example would call it Wheeler.deck, is one of them, where it can drop Time Wizard and Meteor Black on their turn 1, and if the Time Wizard goes off, that's 4k for game. But to get the Meteor Black out, they need to poly. If you negate the poly, that deck shuts down completely. Like, it loses its 1 win con, which is crazy. So, I think Magic Jammer just right now is very well positioned just in the format in general. I'd play Trap Jammer in here if I had the space for it. The problem is I don't. I think I would have sided 2. Arguably, you could swap this for Trap Jammer since, like, again, I said we have all the spell and trap hate in the world in this deck. And you could arguably also side the Harpy's field spell. But if nothing else, I think this is just better positioned for the format. But definitely, if you're having problem against Amazons, try Trap Jammer instead of Magic Jammer. Or if you want to like mess around, you don't think you need the third one of these, or you can, debunk like this and try the Trap Jammers. Jammers, both the Jammers in general are cards I don't think I'd play more than 2 of, just because of the niche situations. You're discarding already with Desert Twister in this deck, so you're not always going to have free extra discards, but because of the draw you get off of this is pretty live early, and Desert is pretty live late, depending on how the field shapes up. Trap Jammer only works in the battle phase. Granted, you should only be using it in the battle phase, outside of Gravekeepers and Rite of Spirit, I think. But it's sometimes, if your opponent can read it and they know to Windstorm ahead of time, they can. It's just really, really powerful against something like Kunai. And since Kunai's seeing all of the play right now, it's definitely something I would test. But yeah, guys, that is my that's my Rogue Dark Horse deck. I've been calling a Tribal Twister because we're playing both Twisters and the Tribal strategy, Tribal synergy. So, as always, comment, like, and subscribe. Click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates. I'm going to try to have more deck videos on this channel. I really enjoy this. And then I'm going to try to get more duels with the lesser-known Rogue decks, because everyone knows how Amazon versus Blue Eyes goes. It's one or the other. It's usually Amazon. It's not even close. I would like to get some more Rogue options in. I'll probably feature my friend Matt's Wheeler.deck. It's very interesting. It kind of utilizes almost everything Joey Wheeler has to offer currently, and it's not just for the fan service. It works out pretty well. It's pretty cool. And don't forget to check out our Patreon. Link is in the description down below. But guys, that's all for us, Yugi Bros, and we're out. Peace.